All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Module 2 discussion. I wrote everything out, but I'd like to add a video to that, so here's what I have to say. Number one, explain the two categories of functional approach to leadership. So I see that in section 2.1.2, the idea of leadership as a functional approach was that leaders are basically another level of the gears in the machinery of getting the whole organization to work. And in the mechanics of leadership, you've got the personality traits that are peripheral to the core process of fulfilling tasks and carrying out processes. Leaders carry out the essential tasks of dividing responsibilities and coordinating schedules. And this is basically herding cats. I mean, making sure everything is working together, keeping everyone in line. And there's also the task of working out personality conflicts. And so, as I understand it, neither of them is really much of a leadership function. It's more of a manager's function, because you're trying to get all the things working properly instead of inspiring anyone personally. You're just managing, coordinating, and resolving, mediating conflicts. Number two, discuss the different sets of leadership assumptions that impact how leaders approach motivation, and analyze how the concept of motivation is based on various principles. So leadership is based on commanders and followers. In section 2.2, we discuss the viewpoints for leadership assumptions that apply to motivation and getting the most effective output from an organization. Section 2.2.1 covers the classical approach of reward and punishment, where behavior deemed effective by the superiors is encouraged and where bad behavior is punished. And section 2.2.2 reviews the perspective of human relations, that power does not implicitly motivate underlings, rather that acknowledgement and concession to demands by the minions brings loyalty and productivity. In 2.2.3, the focus shifts to human resources, where the inferiors are best energized when they feel they are involved in decision making and in controlling their realm. Common to all three approaches is that the commanders grant to followers degrees of liberties in exchange for deeper commitment from the employees and the team members. So the basis level, the lowest level of motivation is coercion, based on fear, based on some privilege being taken away, or some bad treatment, where the force of threat or harm push team members to perform despite the desires of their hearts. Based on no scientific studies, it can be stated that team members don't like bosses who are jerks and don't agree to offer their finest efforts for the cause of the overlord. However, it is clear to see in postmodern management principles that team members are typically no longer laboring under duress. So we're, to put it in unsophisticated terms, we're no longer slaves. We're free to choose what work we do and where we work, who we work with. We are at liberty to take employment with other more benevolent overlords. Some overlords have ascertained that actually treating their minions nicely and letting them adorn their cubicles with family photos and potted plants has achieved marginal productivity gains, and thus has surpassed the motivations of lashings and public beheadings. So I'm a little bit cheeky with this, but you have to acknowledge that at some level, managers are still looking sort of scientifically at how to increase productivity to improve their numbers. But there's still not as much human factor as you think. In today's modern age, we believe that we're empowered or free, but you have to allow the possibility that we're not as free as we think. Okay, number 3, according to our authors, what is meant by power? Power, as defined by the textbook in section 2.4, is the ability to influence behavior. In the context of industry, power is needed to run the machinery, either by the heart of coal-fired generators or the innovation of software engineers to feed the internet hamsters. Yeah. Without a motivated team, a lone manager cannot achieve as much. Section 2.4.1 lists several sources of power, ranging from legitimate to coercive, to inspire or compel other humans to join your cause. In a simplified view of history, figures such as Abraham Lincoln and Winston Churchill charismatically and poignantly inspired nations to pull together to face existential challenges. In both cases, they appealed to their common nature with the team members and called on the finer qualities of human nature. Another aspect of human power is the power of shareholders. And in this case, we're talking about financial stake in an organization or rights given by their status. They can wield power based on their majority stake. Rather than appeal to gain alliances or to make anyone feel included or in control of the decisions, they wield their wealth and capital to declare their eminence. Section 2.4.2 does draw a parallel to the character of power that attempts to exercise unethical dominion, but it is apparent in society that management styles must be greater aligned with dignity and respect for all team members. Though some managers conflate their position in an organization with power, team members are more capable of challenging authority and controlling their own environment by choosing a different team to work with. All right, the next section, talking about Chapter 14. What are the most important tips offered from Chapter 14 that can help you be a better writer? Section 14.1 points out the common theme of good advice in communication, that the message must be adapted to the audience. In a workplace environment, many different personalities and possibly many cultural perspectives gather together to accomplish goals. Organizing a message that is self-aware and effective can be a great challenge. Fortunately for us, as described in 14.1.2, most forms of professional communication can be standardized based on a style and tone that is common in almost all workplace situations. Whether in corporate, military, volunteer organizations, there are basic norms to follow that are effective and agreeable. The pointers in section 14.1.3 suggest that clarity is important to quickly relate to the audience and convey your message without losing focus. Business writing is not useful as a stage for abstract artistic expression, though that is not to say that it is not a good place for genuine human expression. So given time is money is on everyone's mind, it's better to be direct, clear, and relevant when you express yourself. On a related matter, as described in section 14.2.1, media richness is a tangible factor in communication with the prevalence of electronically mediated communication, EMC. We have the choice of email, text, FaceTime, teleconference, voicemail, and so on when we want to convey a message to someone. When we have something to share with someone, choosing the channel for our communication is a significant choice if we want to cultivate a personal connection. The authors suggest more media-rich channels to reach out and connect, but with routine information, when we deem it appropriate to maintain distance, we can utilize lean media channels. Based on the tips offered in Chapter 14, what are your personal greatest strengths and weaknesses as a writer? As a strength, I consider my ability to perceive key details, key to reading character and nonverbal messages. I would hope that this translates into understanding my audience well, as in section 14.1 8.1.1, which lays out organizing a document, its purpose and audience. I realize that I do a great deal of writing on a daily basis, whether for work, to communicate with team members, to build and maintain social connections, or to express my care and concern for family members, or to express my artistic side for my hobbies, and a little bit of schoolwork. I innately gauge and adjust my tone, voice, and vocabulary for the recipients. As I receive responses, I use my empathy to imagine how the recipients might have interpreted my messages, and I do what I can to adjust for any misinterpretations, or I might back off and relent from picking at threads that may bog down the conversation. So the authors call out a significant drawback to modern communications that many of us tend to hide from coworkers by sending emails instead of calling or meeting face-to-face, as in 14.2.2. From my perspective at the computer screen or cell phone screen, texting app, or other team members are reduced to incessant notifications that draw my attention away from my concentration and progress on completing tasks. I often experience that seeking out and talking to coworkers face-to-face takes a lot more time and energy, along with negotiating the perils of transactional nonverbal messages. As I sit at my screen, I regard the people face icons as resources to quickly ping and query for ongoing knowledge convergence. I usually feel more productive when I work on my own instead of bogged down with human interactions, unless I really intend to wind down and waste some time. All right, so those are my responses. I look forward to your value-added responses, and I'll do the same for you. So I'm glad to talk with this about you guys. Have a good evening.